Alright, welcome back to Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Justice for All. In the last part, we were just about to hear Adrian's testimony about how she was protecting Matt. Alright. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill Juan no matter what, and he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course, the button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt I had to protect him. What do you care? He's just a client, technically. This does account for everything. Well, I am the logical type. We're finally seeing her true self. She's more nervous than a scared rabbit. If there are no objections, I feel that I can pass a verdict based on this testimony. Now then, Mr. Wright, if you please. Looks like somehow everything has swung to the opposite end of the scale again. That just means I have to put my weight into this and turn the logic upside down. At least we didn't get some random thing. It's like, time to go full throttle into the danger zone or whatever. The moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill Juan no matter what. He didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. Let's ask about that. But didn't you already testify earlier that Mr. Angarde was taking a nap in his room? Taking an epic finger point in his room? Are you telling me now that that too was a lie so you could cover for Mr. Epic Finger Point? I'm not telling you anything of the sort. When I went to get him for the show, he honestly was sleeping. However, as to whether he was sleeping the entire time, that I cannot say. I was too busy setting up the stage at the time. I keep trying, but I can find no flaws with what Mrs. Andrews, I keep saying Mr., dang it. Miss Andrews has said. I can't say the same for the people here in this courtroom, however. The judge is glaring straight at Mia. He's glaring at you, smart guy. Oh, my thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course. The button and the knife, huh? Let me ask that. Alright. You can hardly call the knife decisive evidence. The fingerprints on the knife could very well be a clever camouflage. Then, what about the button? The button? It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and the murderer fought. And during the fight, the killer ripped the button from the Jammin' Ninja's costume. You're talking about this button, correct? That button was found in the pleats of Matsukama, isn't that correct? I would think that it makes very decisive evidence. Ugh. Looks like you were outfoxed again, Mr. Wright. Anyway, the knife doesn't prove a thing. Please fix your epic finger point. I can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeat. Thank goodness Mia can still look at me. With an icy stare, yes. Yeah, it looks like she can read thoughts. Ms. Andrews, for Mr. Wright's sake, please add this information to your testimony. Okay. That button was torn off of the wand during his fight with Matt. Well, let me see here. I seem to remember something about the autopsy. Where is it? There you go. Autopsy. Strangled with a scarf, and then stabbed with a knife. You know what that means? That means that that button couldn't... Hold on. Here, I'm going to present it. Let's see if they say what I'm thinking. Epic finger point. This is the victim's autopsy report. It clearly states that the cause of death was strangulation by a scarf. Strangulation? The knife stab to the victim was done after the victim had already died. And what does that mean? Let's examine the evidence. This button has the victim's blood on it, which would mean that it was ripped off the costume when? After the knife was stabbed into the victim. Exactly, which means it is impossible that this button was torn off during the victim's final struggle, because the victim was strangled to death in that fight. That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was consciously pulled off the victim's already dead, decaying, deceased, dying body. Epic finger point. I had to do another lay-on joke. Alright, smack. Order. When is the objection? Kinda getting slow there. What is the meaning of this, Wright? So what if the button was torn off the body after the victim had already died? What does that change? Let me ask you one simple question, Mr. Edgeworth. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve? What purpose? We now know this button was not torn off during the fight. so the murderer took the time and effort to purposely rip this from the victim's body. That would mean that the murderer had something in mind, wouldn't it? Mr. Wright, does this mean you know what the murderer wanted to do with this button? What was it? To have a memento of the crime. To destroy evidence? I doubt that. Alright. Yeah. To pin the crime on Angarde. Duh. There's only one logical reason for doing something like that. It was to pin the crime on Mr. Angarde. There's no way anyone would put a bloody button in their own pants. That's what she said. Well, whatever. That's right, Mr. Angarde was set up. Angarde, by the real killer, of course. Alright. And the real murderer is? Typo! The real murderer is? The real murderer is? Well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is the real killer then? Or the real kill, as he should have said. Finally! I can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way up to this point. Phoenix, you can't let your guard down yet, not until the very end. The real killer, the person who planned to frame Mr. Angarde is... It's got to be... Adrian! It must be. I really hope I'm not wrong. Don't be wrong. Come on. Yay, I'm not wrong! Woo! Miss Adrian Andrews! I choose you, Adrian! I choose you, Epic Fingerpoint. You are Mr. Recorda's killer. What? We got type advantages now. Yeah, Adrian Andrews is super effective against the judge. Order, order, order. Oh, critical hit. Super effective. Oh, the judge fainted. Crap, I wanted to catch him. Mr. Wright, this is a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that supports your charge? Any evidence? All of the evidence points to Miss Andrews. What? How preposterous! You can't stick any of that on me! I can't, can I? Would you care to test me? Then what about this knife? The knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. It was used to throw suspicion onto Mr. Angarde, naturally. A knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints could only be taken from his room. And the only one who had Epic Fingerpoint with him and knew which knife to take was you. I love how her glasses breaks. I never noticed that. Or her glasses break. Then, what about the button that was found in Matt's Hakama? This button was removed from the victim's body after he had already died. The only people who could have done so were the person who found his body or the killer. However, if Mr. Angarde was the real killer, there is no way he would have put such incriminating Epic Fingerpoint in his own Hakama. And how many pairs of glasses do you have? Jeez. The only person who could have put this button into Mr. Angarde's Hakama is the person who went to wake him from his nap, which is you, yet again, Miss Andrews. Epic Fingerpoint. I see. What about the empty guitar case? That is also another piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. That costume was used to hide the real killer's identity as they fled the crime scene. Now, who could have known that there was just such a costume inside the guitar case? It could only have been the person who prepared the costume for the victim. And that person is you, Miss Adrian Epic Fingerpoint. No, Objection! Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found on the guitar case. And it was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time. That's right. That's because she did not intend on leaving any prints. If anyone had found out that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. She had to avoid leaving prints, so she used a towel or something else to open it. But the glass on the tomato juice is a different story. Miss Andrews purposely left her fingerprints on the glass to show that, yes, indeed, she was the classic dazed discoverer of a dead body. Epic Fingerpoint. And to top it all off, there's this photo. Dang, we're good. A photo of the killer as they exited the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on Earth could believe that Nickel Samurai is Mr. Angarde. They would be much too Epic Fingerpoint for his own costume if it was him. Speaking of how tall people are, Miss Adrian Andrews, you're also kind of short in stature, are you not? Please, stop. Well, how about it, Miss Andrews? I've got her this time. Miss Andrews? I refuse to testify. What was that? There's a law. It says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me. Yeah, pleading the fifth. Well, yes. You are absolutely correct, Miss Andrews. The law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination, by allowing a witness to not testify if the testimony can cause damage to themselves. What? Pleading the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Ungarde's room... Adrian Andrews! Yes? Think hard about what we just discussed, understood? Alright. Alright. Frickin' Von Karma. That's it. That's when Franziska planted this idea into her head. She must have told Andrews to not testify if things looked bad. You did a good job proving everything up to this point, Phoenix. There's still one thing you haven't done. Something I haven't done? Epic forehead. Maneuver. Whatever. What's wrong, Wright? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence? What is so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth? I'm sure you realize this as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless. What? Everything you have proven is circumstantial. Circumstantial? Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to provide a single piece of definitive proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder Mr. Corrida. Screw you, Edgeworth! Smack, smack, smack. Miss Andrews, did you want to kill Mr. Corrida? I believe this may lead me to incriminating myself, so I will abstain from answering. But Miss Andrews, if you do that, it would be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think? Maybe so, or maybe not. There's nothing to prove it either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of, due to my silence. No, she's taking that defiant attitude again. Mia, what should we do? Somehow we've landed in the worst possible situation. Well, you're sure calm about this. I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify, and the defense's theory that she is the actual murderer has not been fully substantiated with solid definitive proof. But that's not true. In this situation, there is only one thing this court can do, and that is to declare a recess. Recess? I request that both the prosecution and the defense look further into this matter, and at tomorrow's trial... Tomorrow? We don't have a tomorrow. If we don't get a not guilty verdict today, then... Hold it! Please wait, Your Honor. That's not necessary. The trial... Please continue with the epic finger point. What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, isn't he? That's not it. This isn't about that. Edgeworth, I know you know who the real killer is. Please, let the trial continue. If I don't get the verdict, then Maya... Smack. But it's impossible to continue as long as the witness refuses to testify. Now then, this court is... Objection! Thank you, Edgeworth, you're nice.